On MMA fans and gamblers, welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast and another edition of the Sharp Action Report. It is pay-per-view week, UFC 294. We're in Abu Dhabi, and we are joined by none other than our guy Andrew from Superbook Sports. He's going to give us a peek, a look at the other side of the counter, see if we can get some juicy information, anything that can help you guys make more intelligent bets. Andrew, my man, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing awesome. Obviously, a busy time in the books. Sad this card's super early, but I can't wait for it, man. There's some awesome fights on the card. A little chalky in spots, and we kind of have to figure out how to make that work over here. But yeah, I'm super thrilled that we have actually the two replacement fights. I think make this card a lot more enticing, and I cannot wait for tomorrow.
Absolutely. I can't wait. Cannot wait whatsoever, man. It's going to be a good time. You know, we got the chat popping in here. Everybody already piling in to hear the news about the sharp action, you know, the public sides, and maybe even the big guy. Andrew and I have not talked at all this week, so I have no idea what's in store for us today. We're going to go over this card top to bottom real quick, and we will let you know what he sees on his side of things, and then we will let you guys know where the action lies. Real quick, though, I just want to set the record straight, Andrew. We have got Pick'em MMA in the chat saying that the big guy, the last time around, went with Oliveira and Alatang for an 0-2 result. That is inaccurate, my friend. He did, in fact, play Alatang highly, and that one did lose, but the second play was actually none other than the damage Darren Elkins. So he went 1-1 plus money. That's a win for the big guy. I was the one on Oliveira. That was me, not the big guy.
In hindsight, the Alatang bet doesn't look great at all. It didn't look like he had much of a shot. And if you reprice that fight, if they fought again, I mean, I don't think it was a great bet. But, I mean, sometimes you got to take the shots on those long shots, and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't.
Hey, anytime you're throwing a dart at a 3-1 dog, you only got to be right 1 out of every 4 times you take that shot. That one, not so much. Nobody hits at 100%. We always got to remind people that. So even though the big guy does damage, typically speaking, I mean, I would say not his day, but when you go 1-1 at plus money, you still pocket some cash. So not even a bad result for him going 1-1 the last time out. Let's go ahead and get on into this thing, man. First fight on the card looks like UFC newcomer Magomedov, who's a giant favorite over Bruno Silva. It's going to be all about avoiding the landmines at UFC 294, man. This seems like the perfect card to parlay up, and you know the bookies are going to need 1 or 2 busters in there, and it's just a matter of making sure you find and or dodge those spots. It seems like a lot of love for the UFC newcomer here, Shara, and I get it. It looks like they're making a big deal about him. Anything interesting on your side of things as far as this first fight goes?
Yeah, this is one that's had a decent amount of movement, especially for someone that is maybe not as well known. So we opened this one at $2 on Magomedov, and it's sitting at $3 here in Nevada. We did take a very respected bet early, not the big guy, but a very respected bet at $2.20, and clearly there's been some traction on that side where now it's sitting $3. I'm not going to say that I believe laying $3 is always the smartest, especially with somebody that's so unknown, and this is kind of a big spot for him. But I haven't seen too much resistance with Bruno Silva yet. There's been some action, but it hasn't been like overwhelming. So yeah, that's where we sit on this fight.
Okay. The legend of Shara is growing. He's been somebody a lot of people have been excited to see in the UFC. So not very surprising, but man, Bruno Silva is very, very dangerous. I could absolutely see this guy pulling off the upset and kind of spoiling everybody's night right out the gate just because Shara hasn't been tested at this level yet. And Bruno's kind of deep waters in the UFC. It's not like he's a scrub for your first fight. So this one should get interesting. Next up,
I want to add it to the sorry, I didn't mention it, but
no, you
did take a bigger bet on the under in this one too. So that was interesting to me. That's one of the totals that got bet a little bit more than others. So it's something that I'm keeping my eye on for sure.
That's unfortunate. I just bet the over 1.5 last night.
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking this looks a lot like the Pereira fight, you know, where Shara tries to keep the space, use the big cage, keep the distance, and then Bruno's durability. He's in shape, man. He looks good this week, so I think he can at least hang in there, absorb some punishment, and maybe we see a later finish as opposed to an early one. But that does concern me if you guys are taking some big action on that under 1.5. I'm
Doesn't
headed the
mean
other
it's
way.
sharp action. It's big action doesn't mean sharp action, brother.
That's fair. That is fair. All right. Next up, Victoria Dudakova takes on Jinyu Fray. We've got another massive favorite here. Dudakova off the Contender Series has a fluky armbar break situation. Not even an armbar, sorry, an arm break situation on a takedown in her UFC debut. And here she finds herself a minus 500 favorite. I got to feel like this is one-way traffic, but are you guys seeing anything interesting on the second fight?
So, I mean, not really on the fight, but I mean, this is one, it's going to be pretty common on this card that this is one that's probably going to be in a lot of parlays. We opened this one at $4 on Dudakova. It's sitting $5.50 now. So there has been a lot of movement on the fight, but I can't say that we moved it off of sharp action. The market there might be some sharp action in the market to have moved it this much. You usually don't see $1.50 move unless there's some sharp action behind it. But yeah, this is a piece that's going to be in a lot of parlays. But one interesting thing on this fight is I've seen several under bets on this fight as well, which was pretty surprising because I don't always have the most luck betting unders in the women's fights, but I could understand the spot here. They might think Dudakova might be able to get Fray out of there, but yeah, we'll see. That's where we're sitting here.
Yeah, the under actually does make a little bit of sense to me here, just because Dudakova seems like that mean finisher type of fighter. And then Jinyu Fray, the one thing she's got, man, is that big left hand. So I don't know that she's got the tools to win a 15-minute decision. I think she needs to get a finish if she's got any hope of getting her hand raised here in this one. So we'll see. I don't mind that under look, and I do tend to agree on the favorite being in the right spot here. But man, it's just 5-1 is so gross on a fighter with really not even one UFC fight. In my opinion, she's still straight off contender as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and this is one I wouldn't be shocked. I'll probably say it a couple more times is even if we do get a couple of bets on Fray, we know that parlay money is going to continue to come in on the favorite. So it's like, is it really going to slow down that number even if we take some bets on the dog? Like, you know that parlay money is coming. So it's sitting 550 here. I wouldn't be shocked if this number keeps moving unless we get some significant action on the other side.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, we got Nathaniel Wood taking on Muhammadjon Naimov. And you know what? Naimov is my guy that I kind of think might be the spoiler here this week, man. I have not pulled the trigger yet. And it looks like that line's come down just a little bit from plus 270 to about plus 240. The hesitation maybe cost me a little bit, but I'm not sure if I want to take that shot or not. Feels like he's a little bit KO or bust. But Wood, one of these guys that tends to kind of run into big shots. What are you seeing over there? And is this one where you've gotten any interesting action on the dog?
Yeah, so actually, this is one where we did get some interesting action, a bigger bet from a newer customer on the dog. So it's definitely something for us to keep our eye on. I'm not going to say that it moved the line very much just because it's such a big favorite. It's going to be tied in, like I said, with the parlays. But
Sure.
that was something that we kept our eye on. It moved the line a little bit. And as of now, we need Nathaniel Wood. And I mean, I know that will most likely change, but definitely an interesting bet to keep our eye on for sure.
Yeah. Not a bad place to be. When you need the 3-1 favorite, not a bad place to be. I would be tempted on the Naimov by KO prop that's 6-1. That's the thing I think that I would be interested in sprinkling, maybe more so than the money line, because I just don't see how he wins a decision. I'll be completely honest. I do think he's KO or bust. So we'll see if I get there. Interesting to have the newcomer coming in big on the dog. What's up, everybody? We have 72 live viewers here on the show. This is the Sharp Action Report. I'm chilling with my guy, Andrew, from Superbook Sports, getting a peek across the counter. Do us a favor and smash the like button. Jump in the chat. Talk with these other gamblers. Let's try to make some intelligent bets for tomorrow, bright and early, UFC 294. Next up, you've got Mike Breeden taking on Anshul Jubli. A bit of a weird fight. Jubli coming in pretty hot off of the road to UFC. Breeden, a guy who's been around for quite some time. He's 0-3 in the organization so far. Missed weight this morning. It's going to be interesting to see how this one sizes up, but we've got another big favorite. What do you see here?
So this one I'd say is actually one of the more interesting line moves out of all of these big favorites, because we opened Jubli up at 450. This line has kind of crashed where we've gotten a lot of bets on the dogs here. It's sitting $3 here in Nevada. We have got some good action on Breeden here. I still think the favorite's going to get it done, but I can understand why this price has come down. I don't know that he necessarily needed to be a $5 favorite, but yeah, I'm not overly surprised that we've gotten dog action here, and this is one that's actually kind of moved the line with it. So yeah, that was interesting.
All right, so we've definitely got some dog love here. I do see that line continuing to shrink on Anshul Jubli. I'm personally on the Jubli side. I do think he's a favorite that is, well, maybe the line was a little wide to begin with, but at the end of the day, I do think he's got the wrestling chops to go ahead and handle Breeden. We've seen him taken down quite a bit so far in his UFC tenure, but we'll see. A lot of sharp guys that I very much respect are taking the dog shot here on Mike Breeden, so I'm a little nervous about having him in a parlay myself. We'll find out what happens on that one. Next up, Abu Azaitar takes on Cedric Dumas, and you guys know me. I'm already the one over here pounding the drum on Dumas being a bit of a sleeper here in the UFC. I know people have been burned by the kid, but I think he's got a high ceiling. We'll find out just how high he can go. I laid the early chalk at -170, and it looks like he's got up and over that -250 ballpark, which is a little bit terrifying to me. Andrew, what do you guys see over there?
So, I mean, it looks like you're on the side where some of the sharp action has come. This is one where we actually got a very respected better in early. The line is come and gone, like you said. We're sitting 260 here now. We opened it at 180, and he took it right away at 180, and this line hasn't really looked back since. So I don't know if I would encourage anybody to hop in at 260, but we do have respected action on Dumas, and you don't pay chalk on winners, I guess, but I'd still be nervous laying 260 with this guy. But yeah, I still think he's going to get the cash.
I'm right there with you. This is, I hate to say it, man, but this is that pick the winner spot there for me, right? Like the line is absolutely too wide, but I do think the Azaitar brothers are kind of relics of a past generation at this point. So it should be a passing of the torch. Dumas should get the win. Hard to trust him at -250, but I'm very happy to have -170 in my pocket with some sharp action support. All right, next up, we've got Javid Basharat taking on Victor Henry. Another interesting one where we've got a $5 favorite in Javid and a very, very live dog that's played spoiler more than once already in the UFC in Victor Henry. Talk to me about this one, man.
Yeah, so Basharat, we opened him up at $4. It's currently sitting $6 here in Las Vegas. So with that, I would say this is another one that I would not be shocked if this number keeps moving until we find some respected and big bets on Henry. And as of now, it just hasn't really come. I mean, you get your two-way action, but like I'm talking a real bet on that other side and real bets coming in. So I wouldn't be shocked if this number keeps going from $4 to $6 in just over a week. That's a ton of movement. So the way these parlays are going to come in, I wouldn't be shocked if he closes $7 or $8 unless we start getting some respected action the other way.
I'm all in on the Javid Basharat train, man. I really am, but I wouldn't be being honest with you if I didn't say I was a little nervous about this one. Victor Henry playing spoiler the way he does, that cardio, that pace, the volume. I think this fight could get a little more interesting than that 5-1 line suggests, but I do think at the end of the day, Javid probably gets his hand raised. So I'm definitely in the parlay crew here for this one. Feeling a little gross about it at this number, but hopefully he gets it done for us.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we've got another one where I'm very happy to have beaten a giant live movement. Trevor Peek takes on UFC newcomer Mohamed Yaya. We've got Trevor Peek sitting around the minus 170 range at this point. I got in right at that pick'em price tag, man. Minus 120, minus 125. That's about where I liked this thing. He opened up the dog, though, and has flipped all the way to being a massive, massive favorite. Trevor's let us down before. I'm curious what you've got to say on this one, man.
Yeah, this is a fun fight, though. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this one out of the early action, and it seems like the customers are pretty invested in this fight. There's a lot of action on this fight for one of the earlier fights. So we opened up at 120. I know on the offshores, he opened up a dog in some of those spots, but we're sitting 170 here now on Trevor Peek. Right when we opened this thing, that same guy who is very respected with us, he came in and took Trevor Peek as well. So it looks like you and him have minds lining up on a couple fights so far. But yeah, there's been good two-way action, but the book certainly needs Yaya in this spot right now. So that's where we sit.
All right. I really do enjoy me some Trevor Peek, man. I think this is a spot where he gets right. Glad to hear I'm on the same side as a respected bettor over there for this one. And love beating that line move. We'll see if that turns out good or poorly for me. That CLV trophy is always something that haunts my nightmares. And Tim Elliott up next with Muhammad Mokaev. Mokaev getting ever close to that $4 or $5 price tag again. And I see a lot of love in the market for the dog Tim Elliott. Have you guys had anything respected on this one?
Yeah, so we opened this one $6, and a lot of these ones that are big favorites like that, you usually don't see them coming down unless you get some respected action. So we did get a very respected bet early on Tim Elliott at 4-1. The price has come down a good amount, but I see it starting to kind of go back up a little bit as this week has gone on. As of now, we thankfully need the favorite. I know that as of tomorrow, that ain't gonna be how it is here. We're gonna need the dog, but yeah, it's nice to know there's at least some respected action on the dog. So maybe this could be one of those spots that's a parlay buster. I don't necessarily think so. I really hope so, but yeah, we're sitting 430 here now.
Okay. All right. I am on the Mokaev train myself, but man, I've been to the well before backing Tim Elliott, and it's tough for me to lay this kind of a price tag against that man because I know how underrated he is. So this is a big, big question for Mokaev coming back off of a big injury. We'll find out tomorrow. I love that spot. That fight is going to be very intriguing for me to watch. Saeed Nurmagomedov takes on Muin Gafarov up next. This one of the more, I guess it's kind of sickening to say, closely-ish lined fights. You know, Peek and Dumas, probably the only ones that were straight bet playable early on in the week, but we've got Saeed, a minus $2 favorite here at this point. One of the lower price tags for a favorite. I've seen a little bit of back and forth here on this one. Muin Gafarov seems to be getting a little bit of love in the market from what I've seen. Talk to me about this fight, man. Is it a big handle for you guys, or is this one a little bit less?
I would say this is one of the less, and I think the line movement kind of shows that this one, I don't know if it means we priced it right, but there hasn't been a ton of movement. It seems like this is kind of the stable spot for where it's going to be. We opened it up at 220. It's sitting 230 here in Vegas. I know you said $2 elsewhere. Maybe that's our Arizona price, but yeah, as of now, we need the dog. There's been more money on Saeed, and I think more money will come that way. So I wouldn't be shocked if that one inches up a little bit, but there's been good two-way action on this fight. Yeah, I don't really have much to give on this one. Nothing respected, but a good two-way handle fight.
Okay. Man, this one's tough for me. I'm picking Saeed to get the win, but he's the Nurmagomedov that I simply do not trust. I could see him giving up this spot because Gafarov is incredibly tough to put away, and he keeps coming deep in the fight. You know, if Saeed slows down and Gafarov stays in his face, he could pull the upset. So I refuse to lay that minus 230 price tag there on Saeed myself. We'll move on, though. We're getting to the final couple of fights here on the card, folks. Do us a favor. Show some love. Smash that like button for me. We got over 120 live viewers here on the Sharp Action Report. And this is Andrew again from Superbook Sports giving us all the info from across the counter. Next up, we've got Ikram Aliaskhabov taking on Warlley Alves, another huge favorite. Ikram made a splash in his UFC debut, got a big finish over Phil Hawes, and now he's getting another UFC vet in his second fight. What do you see on this one?
So first thing I wanted to say, I didn't mention it in the last two fights, but we did have some big bets on the unders in those last two. And the most interesting thing on this fight is this is one of the only fights that I noticed a bigger size bet on the over. So when there's these big favorites, you tend to see a lot more money on the under, obviously, because they think those guys are big favorites. They should get them out of there. So this is one spot that was interesting to me because it's a big favorite. We opened him up at $4.50. He's sitting $6. And yeah, we got some big action on the over. So I thought that was interesting. Overall, this is another one that I'm just going to say is similar to some of the other big favorites on the money line side of things. A lot of parlay action with him in it. I'm not going to say there's anything overly respected, but you usually don't see a movement of 150 cents if there's no respected money. So I'm assuming it's out there. There's a reason this line has moved the way it has. But yeah, nothing overly respected here, but we do need the dog in this one.
Okay. All right. Well, Warlley Alves is that savage dog that every once in a while comes through early in round one. So I've got a hard time trusting him, but he's pulled the upset before in big spots like this. So we'll see what happens. Aliaskhabov is another one of those ones where he's just too green for me, man. Like, I like it. I actually bet him against Phil Hawes in his last fight. Can't get to minus 550, minus 600 here in this particular spot. That's just a little bit too much for me. Next up, you got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Johnny Walker, and I'm the biggest Magomed Ankalaev hater out there, man. I'm the guy that's pounding my chest and saying he's never going to touch UFC gold, but I don't think this one's it, man. I love Johnny Walker. I would love to see Johnny Walker get the win, but he's so fragile. I got to pick Ankalaev here. And he's, again, as far as this card goes, one of the more reasonable price tags at minus 350. Somehow that's a reasonable price today. I do lean with the favorite here. What do you see?
Yeah, this is a kind of a nightmare card for the books because, like, if all this chalk comes through, you know we are going to not be sitting pretty. And, like, there's a lot of spots I don't feel great about, and that's for sure. Johnny Walker is somebody, me personally, I haven't been able to handicap the best, so I'm not too sure what's going to happen here. I would say I don't think he's going to get the cash here, but there's been some serious action on him this week. He seems like one of the more popular dogs of the week. We opened this one at 420. It's sitting 360 now. It hasn't got moved too aggressive because, like I said, we know that favorite money is going to come in and we're going to need one of the dogs. So it doesn't hurt right now to lose on one of the dogs. But, yeah, there's been, like I said, great action. Both sides, one of the better two-way action fights on the card, but more action has been coming in on Johnny Walker.
Okay. All right. Yeah. A buddy of mine is pretty big on Johnny Walker this weekend. And like I said, I would love to see it, but I just don't see it. Co-main event, Kamaru Usman finally taking on Khamzat Chimaev. Man, when this fight happened, I assumed it would be with gold on the line. Yeah. It's interesting that now we're doing it up at 185 instead. We've got Usman on short notice. Khamzat is a decent-sized favorite here. He's broken past that $3 mark. He's up and over it at this point. And are we being a little disrespectful of the former champ? What do you think on this one?
So this is a really tough one for me to really understand how this line has moved. I'll do my best to try to explain how everything happened. We obviously opened this fight up a long time ago while Usman was still champion. And at the time we opened it up, Usman was actually the favorite over Khamzat. He was minus 150. Obviously, there's a lot that's changed over that time. He lost, and he's no longer the champion. And there's questions about his knees, and he dropped the R word, and there's a lot of questions, but the line has moved a ton. So we, after he lost, we moved the line to minus 140 on Hamzat, so plus 120 on Kamaru Usman. But now we opened it up last week at 280, and it's sitting 335 here in Vegas. So it's like, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this one. All the money's coming in on Hamzat, so like, as somebody who's just been watching the lines for a while, it's hard for me not to think that Usman has a shot here. But there's just so many question marks in this one. Like, I know you've talked about you're not sold on Usman this fight when he's dropped the R word and then the knee and everything. But man, it's pretty crazy just in the last 6 months how much this line has moved.
It is pretty wild, man, because Usman is being treated as though he's shot right now in this spot. And quite frankly, man, I'm of the opinion that he might actually be. Unfortunately, the durability seems to be a problem. Yeah. The knee situation is super weird. That being all out there in public this week, the way it has been, people scrambling to defend it seems a little odd, almost like if there was really nothing to look at, we just wouldn't be talking about it. Instead, it's a massive talking point that they feel the need to address. And then the fight not being at 170, but instead being at 185, where Hamzat quite clearly has a physicality advantage, just because I don't know if he's fit for 170 anymore. I don't know if the guy could even make 170 at this point. He's put on a lot of muscle. He looks very filled out at 185. That gives him an extra edge the fight didn't originally have as well. I agree. I'm on the Hamzat side of things. Let's just go ahead and bury Kamaru Usman. Good luck to anybody who might be taking that dog shot on Usman. He was one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. Very skilled, very talented. We'll see if that holds up on Saturday, but I kind of think it's Chimaev smash time myself. Main event time, everybody. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. It's just funny how the betting industry works at times, because like when we had it minus 140, there wasn't a lick of interest on Hamzat. So then when this fight gets announced and it's moved to $3, now everyone's dying to lay $3. I'm just like, for me, it's hard to understand how these bettors think sometimes. I get you don't want to tie up your money, but like to have no interest at minus 140, it makes me think that the line is a little weird. I obviously know Hamzat's an animal, and I think he'll get the cash, but it's just crazy how this one has moved. It's definitely interesting to me.
It's a little wild. It really is. The hype train is doing its job. They're well at work here in this one, but I also do understand there's a bunch of different factors where, you know, Usman in his prime before he had lost, you know, his title and things like that, that's a very different fight just from a mental standpoint, from a breakdown preview standpoint. He's still on top of the world. He still seems untouchable. And then things have changed. You know, you give it just a couple months and things are very, very different. So very interested to see how this one plays out. I do think the UFC gets their wish, and Hamzat probably does go ahead and smash, but we will see what happens. Everybody in the chat, do us a favor. It's main event time. Smash the like button. We got 130 live viewers here, and we're talking about Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski 2, and we have an interesting move in this line. You know, last fight Makhachev was somewhere around the $5 favorite mark. Now you've got Volkanovski coming in on short notice, flying across the planet, cutting more weight than he ever has before in his career, and somehow this line is tighter. Very, very interesting. Andrew, what are you guys seeing? What do you have as far as action goes? Anything sharp, notable, public? And just talk to me about that line move, because that's definitely an interesting situation here to me.
Well, Volk is definitely getting a lot of love this week, I think. I think people want to see him succeed. But this is definitely a fight that I think we priced out the correct way. We opened up a potential bout right after their first fight. We opened it up at 240. Our current line is 260. So it looks like that line was pretty spot on. And then there's been action on both sides. So it's like, this is one that is right now a great spot for the book. We do need the favorite as of now. I don't think that's how it's going to sit when we get there tomorrow. And I think that's why maybe the line hasn't maybe moved as much as you thought it would. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to tomorrow and it starts inching up. But Volk is getting that love this week, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Lots of love for the underdog. The bookies are in a position where they actually need the favorite, Islam Makhachev, to come through as a minus 250 favorite. Folks, that was the sharp action report for UFC 294. Don't go anywhere. As soon as we end this stream, I will be doing a live version of the Undefeated post weigh-in show. We'll go back over the card. We'll go over what these fighters looked like on the scale. We'll do one last final preview. But we want to thank Andrew for his time and giving us all this information from behind the scenes. So, Andrew, if you've got anything going on, promos, anything like that that you want to throw out there for the people, now's your time, man. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Like always, I got some of those odds boosts coming up for these fights. I'm gonna do a little Hamzat one to get it done inside the distance, if that interests any of you guys. And I know there's a lot of interest on Hamzat this week. But yeah, this I can't wait for this card, man. This is an awesome one, and I always love doing the show with you. And I hope we can continue doing it, man.
Absolutely, my man. Appreciate the time, and definitely have a good time doing the show with you every single time we get around to it as well. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and shut this down. Like I said, stay live right here on Pub Sports Radio. I'm going to immediately start the other stream. It's 30 minutes early, but I'm going to start the Undefeated Post Weigh-In show up in about 5 minutes. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Good luck on all your action, everybody. And don't forget, it's an AM card. You want to be up and wide awake at 7 o'clock in the morning for this one. Because if you sleep in thinking you can lock in your bets while you're watching some college football, you're already too late. This one starts bright and early over in Abu Dhabi. So jump on over there for me. Thank you again, Andrew. Good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you in just a minute.